Hey guys, Mr. Pokke here, back with another video. Today, we'll be going through CN community's polling opinions between Jingliu and Topaz, or Jingliu and Topaz. This is going to be following the similar format back in my original since version 1.1, 1.2 as well as 1.3 polling opinions video. Without further ado, let's just jump straight into today's content. So as usual, we'll be setting the context for the pool videos, and it's going to be very similar to my previous videos, but this is going to be more for the new viewers stumbling upon my channel. So this series of who to pool is basically deciding between which two units offers the players more value, especially for the free-to-plays and low spenders. Another of my series, CN Hype Watch, will seek to cover the unit's speculative kit right before their release with greater details, which is going to be Jingliu first, followed by Topaz. Silei's banner, will be talking about her another day, likely in the tier list video that I'm going to be cooking up very soon. So we'll only be talking about Jingliu and Topaz, right? Silei's kit, I think everybody here already understands by now. Secondly, in terms of opinions, I'm just offering the CN player base's perspective based on the live stream event. So players should definitely do their own due diligence before making a decision of whether you want to pull for Jingliu and Topaz, especially when consider the fact that we don't really know their multipliers. It is not made public yet, so players beware. And lastly, for target audience, this content is going to be meant for free-to-plays as well as low spenders. I'm under the assumption that the viewers cannot get both units, they can only get a single copy, and we're not going to be pulling for their signature light codes. So if you guys are whales or even dolphins that just want to collect every other unit, then this video is not going to be specifically made for you. Now let's first talk about the estimated pool income in version 1.4, because once we know our pool income, then we can roughly know exactly how many pools can we allocate to both banners. For version 1.4, it is actually slightly shorter compared to version 1.3, lasting only 35 days instead of the previous 42 days from the 11th of October to the 15th of November. As you guys can see over here, the free jades as well as the free passes we get for the free-to-play players will be ranging from the Gift of Odyssey, daily missions, Memory of Chaos clears, Simulated Universe, Battle Pass, Character Trial, Maintenance, Companion Mission, as well as the 3 code from the live stream event. This will total up to roughly 5,915 Jade, 15 Special Passes, and 15 Standard Passes, which is translated into roughly 51 limited banner pools, plus a specific bonus which I'm going to be mentioning right now. Every single time when there's a new patch, Sario will always introduce some sort of new events that will introduce a lot of Jades, a lot of rewards for all the players. This time we're going to be doing the Ethereum Wars, as well as 2 new areas in Battlebox on top of a new main story. It is estimated that the Jades provided to us in this patch would not be as high compared to Storm Disaster, which was a whole new game mode that was super endgame. This is likely similar to something like version 1.2, where it is just an additional copy for players to try. Estimated Jade pool income, honestly, we don't really know, but it should be around the 1500 territory. And then for the players who are willing to top a little bit extra, 35 days of monthly pass as well as 1 paid battle pass will give you an additional 3,330 Jade and 600 ordinary shard for the monthly pass, and an additional 680 Jade plus 4 special summons for the battle pass, not including all the really good rewards, resources, traces that you obtain from the paid battle pass. So this will total up for the paying players to be roughly around 10,825 Jade, 19 special passes, and 15 standard passes, which translates into roughly 86 limited banner pools on top of the banner. So the bottom line is, if you guys already have guaranteed a 50-50, right, if you've already lost a 50-50 to some previous standard banner unit and you're going into the new banner fresh, rest assured that players would still be able to get 1 copy of either Jingliu or Topaz, assuming you guys have very average luck, even for the free-to-plays, because like I mentioned, there is going to be more bonus Jades coming from the events. Let's first talk about Jingliu. She's gonna be our next hyper carry ice DPS. Jingliu focuses on entering her spectral transmigration state, which is basically like an enhanced state, as soon as possible to drastically increase the damage output. This is gonna be very similar to Blade in his Hellscape state or his enhanced state. Jingliu's skill in transmigration state, she does not consume skill points. On top of that, her ultimate and her skills, they target adjacent allies instead of a single ally. Keep in mind that her ultimate already targets adjacent ally, but her skills, instead of becoming a single target, it will now target multiple targets when in her enhanced state. So knowing this, another very important thing to note is that Jingliu also drains our entire team's HP to deal more damage for herself. So during the enhanced state, the damage that's dealt by Jingliu would be increased based on the maximum HP percentage from the entire team, because whenever she drains the HP percentage, it is based on their max HP. In other words, this will encourage players to run more tanky supports with higher HP. So for example, you guys will probably want to build more HP on your R-Star, your Ting Yun, your Bronya, or you're probably likely going to be running a sustain with Jingliu without jeopardizing Jingliu's damage output, because her damage output is directly tied into your team's total health pool. Her supplementary 4 stars, I think we all know from the live stream by now, it's really good because Ting Yun is one of, if not the best 4 stars in the entire game with very useful idleness, while QQ Qingque's E6 drastically improves a player's experience because she's now a lot smoother to play. You get a lot of skill points, which was one of her greatest downsides. So generally speaking, Jingliu's 4 star is one of the best 4 star banner lineup across all the other previous banners, just for the sole fact that Ting Yun is in her banner. Now for Jingliu's verdict, if players don't have a very well built DPS such as Sile, Jingyuan, Blade, Kafka, or you guys even skip in between lane, then her pool value is definitely going to be a 10 out of 10. You really want to try to build a very good DPS for a account to take them to the next level. However, if players already built more than 2+ main DPS, then her value slightly goes down to roughly 6 out of 10. Deciding when to enter Jingliu's enhanced state is going to be crucial to her total damage output, because this enhanced state, it grants her action value advance, as well as it benefits her damage output for a very limited amount of time, because the moment her stacks of synergy uses up, then she'll exit this stage. So players need to try and make use of this window of opportunity to deal the highest amount of damage possible. Now the CN community believes that Jingliu's strength doesn't necessarily come from dealing the highest possible damage. It is more so in the team comp fluidity, very similar to Blade, because of the fact that Jingliu can self-increase her damage output via the team HP drain into damage increase, as well as the action value advance from her enhanced state. She can potentially be a very comfortable DPS, just like how Blade is very comfortable for those of you guys who have actually pulled for Blade. So even if players build other DPS units, players can definitely still enjoy Jingliu, right? She can definitely deal the amount of damage she does without being too focused on exactly which supports she should be tied with. Now moving on to Topaz, she is a very unique DPS style that we haven't really seen before. I'm personally classifying her as the follow-up sub DPS style. She's our very first potential 5-star sub DPS, and Topaz will diversify the team building composition to go beyond the standard hyper carry plus support. So one example that I can think of right now is Topaz, Himiko, and Asta. I think this team will probably work really well together, especially against enemies with fire weakness. So Topaz skill, it increases the target's follow-up damage received, and this skill itself also counts as a follow-up damage. Her ultimate buffs Nambi, right, her trotter. Any attack from allies on the target afflicted with proof of depth, which is from her skill, it will increase Nambi's action value for faster damage output. So you guys can imagine, the more our allies hit the enemy target, then the faster Nambi is gonna get. And when we use Topaz ultimate to buff Nambi, then Nambi can definitely deal some very substantial damage. Similar to how Kafka enables a DOT team, Topaz seeks to enable and improve follow-up damage team comps that we otherwise don't really have somebody that is in this category. But that being said, whether Topaz can be a main DPS is definitely going to depend on how much damage Nambi can do personally, because back when Kafka first released, a lot of players in the community didn't really believe that Kafka can be a main DPS herself. She needs to be paired with a DOT unit like Sampo, Luca, and this speculation is definitely rising for Topaz as well. Does she need to be paired with a follow-up damage unit? Does she need to be paired with Clara, Himiko, Jingyuan, or can she sustain as a main DPS like how we have seen for Kafka currently? And that is definitely gonna be for the future. Now for Topaz supplementary 4 stars, it is comparatively less valuable than Jingliu's 4 stars, just because Ting Yun is just such an amazing 4-star unit. That being said, the new 4-star unit Gui Nafen is looking to be a very decent fire DOT unit to improve the DOT DPS's team building. Previously for DOT team comps, you are only restricted to Sampo and Luca. I don't think there's much DPS, okay, and as well as Servo if you want to consider that. Now we have additional added effect of a fire burn DOT, and that's going to be Gui Nafen. So players who are looking to build a more diversified DOT team composition, then Topaz 4-star is definitely looking to be pretty good, because let's not forget that her banner also has Luca. So the verdict for Topaz, if players are interested in playing a follow-up team composition, she's going to be a 7 out of 10, and if players are intending to stick with the traditional team composition, then she's going to be a 2 out of 10. Now hear me out. Although Topaz brings incredible value to follow-up attackers, right? She can drastically increase Clara's damage output, Himiko's damage output, or any follow-up unit's damage output because of her skill, increasing the target's follow-up damage received. That being said, our current support roster, namely our Harmony and Nihility units, they can also perfectly perform the job and enable our current follow-up DPS to just tackle all of the difficult content. So Topaz benefits of buffing follow-up attacks is not necessarily a must. CN community feels that Topaz's strength will improve as more and more follow-up DPS emerges in the future. And as of the current moment, CN community feels that Topaz's best teammate is likely going to be Clara, because every single time Clara gets hit, then she's just going to unleash a lot of follow-up damage, and this follow-up damage uptime is the highest compared to all other follow-up damage we have. For example, like Jingyuan, Himiko, Yanqing, Qingque, and out of all of them, Clara is gonna be the highest. But like I mentioned just now, even without Topaz, Clara is still pretty much doing everything that we need her to do. You can pair her up with Luocha, you can pair her up with Lings, Yukong, Tingyun, even Pella. All these kind of like supporters, they can definitely improve Clara's DPS to the point where we don't really feel that Clara is very weak without Topaz. And even if Topaz enters, I don't think that Clara's ranking will go like incredibly high. That aside though, she does have one very unique thing about her. Topaz has the best technique in the entire game. Now, why do I say this is the best technique? Is because it allows players to get daily credits, and also as well as the fact that you can get curios in Simulated Universe. Now, this daily credits, it indirectly reduces the stamina constraints when players lack credit in their account, and this is going to be especially prevalent at high traces, high levels, when you guys are trying to raise the trace level to beyond level 8, when you guys are trying to raise the character's level from level 70 to level 80. Credits are definitely one of the biggest bottleneck in this entire game, so having a technique that literally gives you free credits without stamina is going to be very beneficial to your player's account. So in summary, players lacking hyper carry should consider looking into Jingliu, while players experimenting with a new team composition as well as having a future outlook for follow-up attack comp in general should invest in Topaz. Now here are some of the potential weaknesses for both units. For Jingliu, unlike Blade, she does not offer any heal when she damages the allies. So running a sustain with Jingliu is likely going to be a must, especially for new players when they lack the damage to quickly clear a stage. Now maybe for some of the experienced players, some of the whales, you guys probably can still get away without a sustain because you don't really need a sustain if the enemy is already dead, right? Even though your team is like half dead, if the enemy is already dead from the amount of damage that Jingliu can deal out, then it doesn't really matter. But for new players, this is probably not going to be the case. So Jingliu is always going to be tied up with a sustain, very similar to how Blade also needs to be tied up with a sustain unit, because without a sustain unit, Blade's HP will just drastically fall off. Now for Topaz's weakness, she's basically lacking a very synergistic team composition. Now the traditional hyper carry plus support team comp will still likely be the top DPS output until more follow-up units are released, and not just follow-up units, but exactly the kit they do, they have to synergize with Topaz. The exact numbers for Topaz we will need to discuss upon her release, just like how Jingliu's exact damage numbers will need to be discussed when she is released as well. But currently speaking, there isn't a very synergistic comp for Topaz to fully utilize her kit, which is to basically increase Nambi's action value, increase the follow-up damage taken, and just go all in on follow-up damage. Right now, we just don't really have a specific team comp, the only exception being Clara, and even Clara might not really need Topaz that much. So after all that being said, DPS units has less value compared to support and sustain banners for free-to-plays and low spenders. Because speaking as someone who has been playing this game since day one, most units, if not all units, especially DPS, they can work if your support and sustain is strong enough. There has been tons of MOC clears with like the most random units using Herta, Yanqing, even Arlen. They are traditionally very poor DPS units, but because a player's support and sustain is strong enough, they can still clear the hardest endgame content in the game, right? So that's why I'm saying for free-to-plays and low spenders, if you guys want to like future-proof your account and basically get a more diversified team composition going into the future, then generally speaking, sustain and support banners will offer more value. And this kind of brings me to my final point, which is if a player can already create a team of 8 that can consistently clear MOC 30 out of 30, which is our current endgame content, then players can definitely save their pools to pool for future units, unless Jingliu / Topaz is their waifu, or they're purely pulling them for enjoyment reasons. And with that, we've come to the end of version 1.4's CN pulling opinions. If you guys would like to engage in further discussions, feel free to check out my Discord, Pokke's Village, where we have a very active community talking about Honkai Star Rail on a daily basis. If you guys would like to check out my stream, that's going to be twitch.tv/MrPokke. I'm currently streaming every single day. Schedule will be updated on Discord as well, right? So with that, we've come to the end of today's content, and I'll see you guys next time. All the best for Jingliu pulls or Topaz pulls, and take care.